Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Hi, I'm Leslie Doyle, and we have some guests here today to talk about our Main Street Recovery Program. We have Rachel Kincaid from our Deputy State Treasurer, and she is here to answer a few questions that some of you might have pertaining to this program. So I will let Rachel take it away.
All right, thank you, Leslie, so much. We really appreciate all of you joining us today on behalf of Treasurer Schroeder. He is so excited about the Louisiana Main Street Recovery Program that will kick off Tuesday at 9 a.m. on July 28th. It's a loan program, it's a grant program that will provide $275 million to grants to small businesses across Louisiana. The program has a 21-day waiting period, so if you have not received funding already from PPP or EIDL or some other form of federal or assistance, or also if you received your business interruption insurance, you can apply in the first 21 days, but thereafter you can. So the program has a website that you can go on and see if you're eligible. There's 6 questions there. Our website is www.louisianamainstreet.com. So that will give you a list of eligible expenses, frequently asked questions. Also, when you take the quiz, it'll give you a better idea of how much you would be eligible for. We also have a call center. If you have questions, it's open 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. And it's 1-888-795-4947. And once we start taking applications on Tuesday, we'll certainly extend those hours. Just a few stats about the program. We've already had 36,000 people visit the website, so I would encourage you to get your paperwork together and be ready to apply. We've had almost 10,000 people complete the eligibility quiz. Of those people who have taken the quiz, 80% said their business is at least 50% owned by a minority, women, or a veteran. 39% have not received federal funds. So we get about 500 people a day that take the eligibility quiz. So if you're interested in applying, some of the eligibility requirements are that you have to have been domiciled in Louisiana as of March 1st. You have to have suffered an interruption of business. You have to have at least 50% owned by one or more Louisiana residents, and you have to have filed taxes in 2018, 2019, or plan to file in 2020. You can't have more than 50 full-time employees as of March 1st, 2020. And also, you can't be part of a larger business. So if you've got 50 employees in one business and you're franchised and you have another 50 employees, you can't be part of a larger business, and you also can't get your income from a passive investment. So just in general, those are kind of the overview of the program. You're eligible up to $15,000. It's a reimbursement program, so you would have to send in receipts for things. What are those things that could be eligible? Would be rent or payroll, anything you've purchased for PPE. So any of those type of things would be able to be reimbursed. We also have a quick loan or quick relief program. So you can, if you want to provide your tax returns, they can do an assessment of what you could be eligible for, and that those grants are up to $5,000. So I see we've got a few chat questions here. I'll go ahead and take those. We try to reserve most of the time for that because that's the majority of the time people have a lot of questions. So Leslie, do you want me to read these off, or do you want to do it? Or
I'm not seeing any questions at this time on my end.
Okay.
I know that Avery just added some more information, the website and contact numbers.
Yes, I just put that in there. If you guys have any questions, we are encouraging people to call the call center. Anything that could be tailored to a certain application, they are happy to help you with that. The treasurer has also been encouraging people to call his office. If you guys have any questions, they're more than happy to assist. Like Rachel said, go take a look at the website. We have the eligibility quiz. It looks great, and a lot of questions on there that you may already have right now could be in the frequently asked category. So just wanted to touch base about that. And if anybody has any questions, I think we just got some, Rachel or whenever y'all are ready.
Yeah, so I see if you receive the PPP, can you get this grant? Yes, you can. So if you did receive the PPP, the question is whether or not you can apply in the first 21 days. Those are just for individuals who have not already received funds. But if you did receive the PPP, let's say you have $10,000 worth of expenses and you receive $5,000 from the PPP, then you could certainly apply to this program and get the remaining $5,000 as a grant. However, if you did receive $10,000, you can't apply for the same $10,000. So there'll be a question when you apply that will ask you, did you receive any additional support, and then ask you to clarify or say how much you received. And then they will go ahead and either deduct that from what your award would be or make an adjustment.
Yeah, the treasurer has said a couple of times, no double dipping with all of that kind of stuff.
Right. So another question, is there a list of documents? Yes, if you go to our website, you'll see a list of documents. What you're going to need is your 2018 or 2019 tax return. If you are a new business and you have not filed your taxes in 2020, you'll be required to provide some additional information. You'll also have to provide your receipts. This is a reimbursement program, so you need to have your receipts together, but there's a full list of everything you'll need depending on what you're applying for, so you can be ready to do that. Can centers open after March 1st apply for the grant? I believe you have to have been in business by January 1, so that would be a challenge. You needed to be operating by January 1, but any expenses after March, you can certainly apply. If you're part of a church 501c3 organization, can you apply? This is open to for-profit organizations. You can certainly go online and apply. In general, it's not open to nonprofits. However, there are some conditions, so you might want to go ahead and still apply and let them take a look at your application. One of the other questions, we never close, so does that mean we are not eligible? No, that's not the case. There is an assumption that just about everybody in the state, their business was affected in some way. So I would go ahead and submit your application and they'll take a look at it. The deadline is actually going to be in November 4th. However, I would encourage you to apply the very first day. We expect to run out of money very quickly. So I would not wait till November. I would not wait till after, I would apply on the first day. I would absolutely apply on the first day. So basically, another question, if I receive more than $15,000 in PPP, I will not qualify for this grant. No, that's not necessarily true. Let's say you had $30,000 in expenses that were eligible to be reimbursed, and you only received $15,000 back from the PPP, then you would have $15,000 left that you could apply towards this program. So I would encourage everybody to go ahead and apply. Let them look at your application. You can always certainly not be eligible for the full amount, but I would go ahead and do that. Is there a time frame for reimbursement? Yes, you have to have had your expenses have to have begun, I believe, in March. Ava, remind me of that date.
March 1st for the time frame
March
whenever.
1st.
Yeah, so you would do March 1st until the day that you apply. So March 1st to July 28th, or, if you plan on applying at a later date.
Right. Same question, somebody was asking me if we receive more than $15,000 in PPP, does that mean we're not eligible? So I just answered that, depending on how many expenses you had. Is reimbursement for past rent or future rent? I think they're letting you may go an extra month, Avery, on that.
So for that, they cannot reimburse you for future, but they can do it for past. So anything from March 1st until present, they can reimburse you for that, but they can't do anything for future.
Right. So someone else has asked about, I understand PPP, but what about the EIDL loan? The loan is not forgivable. So is it calculated the same as PPP? Yes, it is calculated the same. I think there's a lot of there's a lot of thought that those will probably be forgiven at some point, especially in the lower amounts. So it's going to be calculated the same. The first 21 days is only open for individuals who didn't already receive some type of funding. And then you would need to submit your receipts.
So Rachel, we have a couple of them that have been sent to me privately.
Okay.
Someone asked, they said, if an existing center is changing from sole proprietorship to a partnership August 1st, are we still eligible since the tax ID will change?
Well, it sounds like to me it probably would be. I would certainly submit it on to the accountants and let them take a look at it. You know, there's nothing in the law that says that the change of ownership matters as long as it's 50%. So someone would have to own 50% of the business to be a Louisiana resident.
Okay, good deal, thanks. And then we have another one saying, if your PPP was for payroll only, can I still apply?
Yes, yes. It also depends on how much
regardless if you reached it. Go ahead.
Yeah, so how much, it also depends again on how much your reimbursement was for. So obviously rent could be something that can be included in this. And if you didn't apply for that, then you would be able to deduct your rent.
All right.
Rachel, I'm not sure if you answered this one. We had a question, what are the requirements for quick release fund?
Oh yeah, so the quick release, what they're gonna do is give you a flat rate. So what you would do is submit your 2018 or 2019 tax return, and then they will take a look at your mortgage interest, if you have that, your rent, your payroll, those kind of things, and make an assessment of what you could be eligible for up to $5,000. But that's, you know, as long as you submit your income tax returns. I also see, do we have to pay, so do we have to pay the money back that's sent to us? This is a grant, so it doesn't have to be paid back. Would a mortgage payment qualify? Yes, it would if it's on your business, not if it's a home-based business. So if you have a home-based business out of your home, your home office doesn't qualify.
Okay.
I mean, I also want to ask, this is for all types of childcare, correct? Type 1, type 2, and type 3 that receive public funds. So you don't necessarily have to receive publicly funded children to be eligible for this grant. Is that correct?
It has to be a for-profit. Yes, that's the only requirement. And I see, is this a for-profit only business? Yes, that's right. Would we have to provide receipts for what we send the money on, maybe spend the money on? No, after you spend it, you don't, because this is a reimbursement program, so you're gonna have to provide receipts for things you've already purchased.
Right.
Can you do a quick release and then apply for the grant? My understanding is once you do the quick release, I'll have to go back and look. That's something I'll follow up with Leslie, but I'm not sure if you can apply for that twice. So I think we're going to have to get through all the applications before we would go back and award additional grants. We had to build some permanent walls and make modifications to accommodate the COVID situations. Are those construction costs eligible? I think permanent structures are not, but it kind of depends. So I would go ahead and submit that and let the accountants look at it. Can it be an in-home center? I'm not sure I understand what that means. So one that's in your house, I guess.
Yes, so as long as it's for profit, then it would be eligible.
Okay. I don't see any more questions.
Sure.
Do you have any more, Avi, or Leslie, do you have any more questions?
Someone sent this to me privately, but then they said it was answered. When you say rent, does this mean mortgage if you own the building as well?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
I think we have gotten through these.
I'm not sure if you answered this one. Did you answer what if you received the SBA loan? Do they deduct this loan as well?
Yeah, so if you have, so they would deduct whatever amount of that would be from your total allotment. So again, if you had $30,000 in expenses and you submitted and received an SBA loan for $15,000, you could still get $15,000 back or be eligible for $15,000 under this program. But if you had $30,000 in expenses and you submitted $30,000, then you have already been reimbursed for those expenses. So what is the turnaround time on receiving funds? So from the time we receive the application and review it, there's 15 days. And then after there's been a determination that you are eligible, Treasury has 5 days to mail you a check. So it's going to be very quick. Temporary wall constructed for COVID-19, yeah, go ahead and submit that and let the accountants look at that. Can you do a quick rundown of eligible expenses? I have somebody already asked also about utility bills. Yes, utility bills are in the list of expenses. Just pull out all the list of eligible rundown. Essentially, they are things that you use to mitigate, like PPP would be any type of PPE that you purchase, whether it's hand sanitizers, masks, signage to create social distancing measures, cleaning or disinfecting that you had to do, equipment to screen employees. So if you bought one of the little temperature things, I know those are very expensive. Technology expenses to facilitate teleworking, equipment to track employees or customers who tested positive, temporary structure. So we were asking about the construction question. So those actually would apply, partitions and shields as long as they're temporary. Rent for additional facilities or storage to allow for social distancing. So some of the types of business interruption costs include mortgage interest of a business, rent of an existing business or equipment, lease costs of vehicles. So if you were doing a lot more deliveries than you were before or something like that, you could take off those months that you use that lease. Employee payroll, including employee payroll taxes, health and retirement benefits. And let's see, page. Utilities we already mentioned, supplies, insurance, and inventory that you were unable to sell. And also, lastly, professional costs for making the applications. All right. So do you scan your tax documents as well as receipts or mail or drop off? If you have a lot of documents to scan, I would just go ahead and maybe try to put those in one PDF. I would definitely go ahead and scan your tax documents and receipts. That's going to be faster if you go through the website. I would encourage you to use that. All my receipts are in QuickBooks. Are we allowed to use printouts from QuickBooks of the receipts? We hadn't gotten that question yet, have we, Avery?
I think so.
Okay, so we'll have to check on that and follow up with Leslie on that one.
We'll do a follow-up on that.
Yeah, Avery, can you find out that and maybe put that in the follow up with Leslie on that one?
I have an additional question. How do you
Okay.
provide a receipt if you own the building?
So if you own the building, you should have some type of mortgage or something. I'm sure you have some expenses that would be related to insurance and things like that. I would go ahead and, yeah, because most of the ones we've received on have been like mortgage insurance or your mortgage. So if you own the building, that's also a question we haven't gotten before. I don't think, have we, Avery?
I don't think so.
So that's another one we'll have to follow up on. Y'all have given us, this is like our, 40th webinar. These are 2 new ones we haven't had, so that's good. We waive the weekly tuition for several months. Are those loss of income expenses? Do they qualify? This particular program is for reimbursement. It's not for loss of income or revenue loss or loss of profits. So that actually wouldn't be something that you could submit.
So someone just sent me something and said, I did see the answer to this question, but I'm a little confused. I did use the PPP for payroll already. Can I apply for future payroll with this loan?
So for future payroll in that, so when you applied for the PPP loan, did you apply for payroll like from now backwards and you want to apply for it for say August moving forward?
I am not sure. I'll wait for her to get back to me on that and then follow up.
Future expenses, this is reimbursement. So future expenses is not something they're going to cover right now.
Right. So I don't know if that answers it, but future expenses are not covered for this grant. And she says, thank you, we got it.
Okay, all right. Leslie, did you have any other questions maybe? Did we kind of cover everything? I mean, I can go over the things that are kind of ineligible if you wanted to hear those. Would that be helpful?
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
Okay, great. So expenses, these things are those that are ineligible, expenses associated with a personal residence. So home office expenses are not. Lost profits and revenue, which we talked about a few minutes ago. Meals and entertainment cost, lobbying, donations, political or charitable, club membership dues, construction. And so when they say construction, they mean permanent, not temporary. Legal settlements, damages that have been or will be covered by your insurance, costs that have been or will be reimbursed by any other federal or state program. So again, as Avery mentioned, you can't double dip. Capital expenditures that are more than $2,500 that are not COVID-19 related. Vehicle purchases, real property purchases, a mortgage principal payment, credit card payments that do not contain eligible expenses or other non-mortgage debt. So, so those are the things that aren't covered. Some of the documentation you'll probably need with respect to, say, if you were going to turn in a reimbursement for your health benefits, you would need the invoice from the insurance company. The retirement benefits, you would need a remittance form or payment plan notice. Your mortgage interest, you would need your payment stub or your amortization schedule with your principal and interest. Your rent, you would need a copy of your lease agreement. Your utility bill, your utilities, obviously your bill. And then your supplies, equipment, renovation costs or inventory, we would need specific invoices for those. So I see. How is payroll calculated if you're an SCHC and don't run a payroll as a single member LLC? I think that's one for the accountants. We'll forward that one on to the accountants, unless you know that one, Avery, do you?
No, I don't have the answer to that one. I did get something from someone else saying if you received a PPP loan and used it for payroll, can you apply for this grant to go towards other expenses?
Yeah, so if you used it for payroll and you still have expenses that are outstanding, and they could be utilities, all those things we just mentioned, yes, you could go ahead and submit those. The AC went out and had to be replaced. Would this expense qualify? You know, that's another one we'll have to send to the accountants. We haven't had that one either. That's an unusual one, but I assume that probably would be, but we'll certainly have to forward that to them. Mortgage interest only. Yeah, so it says you need your payment stub and amortization schedule on that one. So when you apply for reimbursement for payroll, you can apply for reimbursement for payroll if you haven't already been reimbursed for that through one of the other federal programs.
I have an additional question. If you paid insurance in September 2019, would this count?
No, because that's before your essentially you have those, whenever the COVID-19 restriction started was in March, so it can't be before then. But if you're saying, did you apply, essentially, did your September payment cover the whole year? So then if you wanted to prorate it, that's something they could look at. If it runs September 19 to September 20, is that what you're asking?
I would imagine that's probably the year.
Yeah. Yeah. So you could, so I would go ahead and submit that and they could prorate that so that you would be March, April, May, June. What about using to repay a line of credit that was taken out to cover expenses? So what you could do is send that to the accountants, which you, as long as you have the expenses, perhaps you could do that, let them look at that, you know, make sure you have all the receipts for everything you spent it on, they have to be eligible. So is flood insurance allowable? They haven't specifically mentioned flood insurance, but I know they've listed other types of insurance. I would certainly put that in and let the accountants review that as well. If you'd apply for past grants, can you still apply for this one? The past grants did not ask for receipts. So if you apply for past grants, you can still apply for this one. Some of them did not ask for receipts. The reason why we're asking for receipts is this is, again, a reimbursement program. This is funding that actually came from the CARES Act. So if you already received money from the CARES Act, we can't pay you twice for the same thing. So in order to make sure we don't duplicate benefits, that's why we need to see receipts. When the other programs came out, this was the first of the kind, so there's no need to be concerned about that.
Right.
Does the CCAP grant affect this grant? So is that the child care grant from that the governor has announced?
That's the Ccap grant that we were offering.
Okay. So what they do is probably deduct that from the amount that you are eligible. So if you have, you know, as long as your expenses exceeded what you received, that would be something they could consider. Is this being recorded? Yes, it is. Business insurance, yes, I'd go ahead and submit that. Actually, let me go back up. It's mentioned that we had to prove outstanding expenses. If this is a reimbursement grant, would it have to be for outstanding expenses, or would expense paid already be covered? I'm not sure what that means. So if you have something that you haven't paid yet, but you've already, if you haven't paid the invoice, but you'd ordered it, I would go ahead and pay it and then submit it for reimbursement. So it has to be something that you've already paid for when you submit it. Yes, so I just answered that. If I use my vehicle for transportation and for business, can I include my car insurance and car notes? So is this something that you, it's only used for your business? Then I would go ahead and submit that. Accounting expenses isn't included up to $500. And to be clear, am I submitting receipts from March 1 to now? Yes. Okay. Main thing is, yes, it has to be something that's already been paid. Avery, do you have any more questions? It looks like we've to the end.
I don't think so. I'm not really seeing anything.
There was a specific question about if you could include utilities if you are a family home, a family child care provider. So these providers are providing care in their personal house. So would you be able to do utilities in that situation?
Yeah, so some of the policies that have come out about that is, so essentially your business has to be a place of business that somebody comes to, your customers or your employees come to. So obviously that one's one that your customers are coming to. I would go ahead and submit that, and my understanding is that that would be allowable.
And I just had one more about, can you repeat what you just said about the accountant expenses?
Yeah, so the accounting expenses that they're being used to prepare this particular grant or submit this for you, they're deductible up to $500.
Okay. We just got another lengthy one. Rachel, if you want me to read it to you, I definitely can. They said, can school-age children come to the daycare center and we facilitate their virtual learning? Some parents have to go to work, but still do not want their children in public school system and need somewhere for their children to go. Even for the days the children do not go face-to-face, they will still need somewhere to go. You see that in the chat box, Rachel?
Yeah, I do. I'm not really sure if you're asking for reimbursement for maybe something that you would do for the children to come this fall. In answer to that question, the only thing I could say is if it's something that you've already spent for your business, and that's something we can reimburse. If this is something that you're thinking about spending to be prepared for the children that might come in the fall, that's not something that would be allowed, but would need to be something that you've already paid for.
Mm-hmm. So I just got something from someone saying, if you receive a relief grant from round 1 and 2, and if you receive the PPP, are you still eligible for the Main Street?
You're eligible for the Main Street as long as you still have expenses that have not already been covered by another federal program.
Right. So no double dipping, basically.
No double dipping. And just to on that, this particular grant will be audited by the legislative auditor. So there's going to be some questions on the application that ask you, have you received federal assistance already? And if so, how much? You'll have to name that number. And so they'll use that, whatever you tell them, to determine what your eligibility will be and how much you're eligible for. But also be aware that the legislative auditor is going to, after this program is over, and actually during it, we're going to be coming back through and checking that. Anything that's a state data source will be checked before your check will be dispersed. So for instance, whether it's something the Department of Revenue or the Secretary of State, or there's several different databases that we've pulled to determine eligibility so we can get people through very quickly. So we'll be pulling those things just to make sure that everybody that gets through the process is eligible.
Well, we have another one. Someone said, does the grants from CCAP qualify as federal grants?
Yeah, so I don't think the accountants have ruled on that one specifically, but they have been counting anything that you've received as federal aid, and I'm assuming this will be the same because it's the same source of funding, that it would essentially be deducted from whatever you are requesting. So as long as you still have additional expenses beyond the grant that you received, then you could still qualify. When can you apply for it? 9 a.m. July 28th, it will go live. But I would get all of your paperwork together as soon as possible. All of my PPP was used for payroll. I want to use this grant for the payroll I was not able to pay. So I will, be able to apply for this, correct. So when you say, if you're saying that you got a PPP loan for payroll and it only covered $10,000 of $20,000 worth of payroll, if you still had anything left that you've not already been reimbursed for, then you could apply for it.
So I actually just got something from someone privately, and they asked if an error is made on the application, will someone call you to clarify it? They actually won't let you move to the second phase of the application process before you can finish a certain section. So I believe that it's kind of like a test. It won't let you go forward unless you filled out that section.
Right. So if you made a mistake and said you were a nonprofit and you are a for-profit, it will just stop. So, as Avery said.
Basically, if the language doesn't line up, it should notify you.
Okay. So Leslie, you see why we spend most of the time on the questions, because we get more questions than anything else.
We got them answered so far.
Okay, I'm not seeing any additional questions on my end.
Well, great. I appreciate y'all, Avery. I appreciate y'all letting Avery and I talk to y'all today. I know the treasurer is very excited about this program, and there is a tremendous need out there. I would, if I were you, I'd go, as soon as you hang up, I would go to our website, which is www.louisianamainstreet.com, and go on the eligibility quiz. Make yourself familiar with all the documents you will need, and be prepared to submit your stuff at 9 a.m. on July 28th. We're expecting a huge demand. We expect to run out of money quickly. You want to make sure you are first in line. And somebody just asked again, what time will the application start? 9 a.m. July 28th. So you want to be ready and prepared. So if you go to our website, it gives you specific details on what paperwork you'll need, what's eligible, and you can also go on and call our call center. So if there was a question that we didn't get to today, or you had more questions, go ahead and call our call center. I would call today because it's not quite busy yet, but I assure you it will be very busy after everybody applies. So it's open every day from 8 to 5. So.
Thank you so much, Rachel and Avery, for joining us. I know this is really great, helpful information that we are very appreciative for.
Well, it's our pleasure. Our pleasure. So,
okay, and I will post this recording of the
we look forward to everyone applying. So mark your calendars.
First come, first serve. So
first come, first serve.
Great. I will post a copy of this webinar, the recording of it, on our COVID-19 website, and we'll also link it in Thursday's newsletter. Okay, y'all have a good day.
Thank you,
Leslie. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.